Hey everybody, post Bellator, Paul Daley versus MVP. That was on last night. Saw it on the Zone on my laptop. Those are my dogs. Okay. My thoughts on the fight. MVP won. Close fight, but I thought he won. I thought it was the right decision. Paul Daley fought a smart kind of fight. It just required him getting so far out of his comfort zone that he couldn't maintain it. He's normally not a takedown guy. He's normally not the most patient striker in the world. He had to be very, very patient. He had to really, really counter, not engage. That's really not his style. Had to rely on his takedown. That's really not his game. So MVP basically able to reverse position in the last round and win it and end up on top. The takeaway, the positives for MVP, he looked fast. Really, I mean, we already knew he was fast. But in space, in the middle of the cage, Paul Daley was hitting air. Hurt him with a left hook, but that was up against the fence in these scramble positions. That's where MVP is vulnerable. When he's forced to move around and he's trapped, he doesn't have a lot of space, he always leaves his hands down. So in those transitions, you can catch him, and that's where he did catch him. The most meaningful punch of the fight from Paul Daley was a left hook against the fence when they were scrambling. But in space, in the center of the cage, man, he looked quick. Paul Daley was winging punches and hitting nothing. That's the good news. Stayed composed when things weren't going great during close rounds. And in the last round, I thought he needed it. He didn't look desperate. He didn't look like, oh my God, it's going off the rails. I really need this round. Mentally, he seemed good. He seemed calm all the way through. I was wondering about that. The bad news is he got taken down regularly by perhaps the worst wrestler in the tournament. Obviously, the welterweight tournament in Bellator. Probably the worst wrestler left in the tournament. And he took him down pretty consistently. That's going to be an issue, for sure. And these were diving, reaching takedowns. These weren't mid-combination, great setup, going to the takedown kind of stuff. He basically dove for the legs and got the takedown a lot. He's taking on Douglas Lima in the next round, if I'm not mistaken. And Douglas can have a decent takedown. He's also bigger and stronger and has better reach. So the issue for MVP moving forward is he had trouble with Paul Daley's takedown, and Paul Daley does not have a great takedown. So he has to worry about that, for sure. So that's going to be an issue. But other than that, it looked good. I saw a lot of things, the maturation process for MVP. Not every round went his way. He didn't fall apart mentally. A lot of it was on the ground. He didn't fall apart tactically. Good stuff from him. So, liked it. The rest of the card. Czech Congo beating Vitaly Minakov. Once again, Minakov versus Congo, and then Roy Nelson versus Krokop. Close decisions. A lot of people didn't agree with them, but close fights, obviously. Czech Congo winning is not good for Bellator because Czech Congo has this way of just sucking the air out of fights. And man, he's had some real snoozers. He's had some good ones, but he's had some really boring fights in Bellator. So this is not a guy you necessarily want to build for the next title shot, although he's in line now. So it just is what it is. Vitaly Minakov, undefeated Russian, although he didn't have the name of Czech Congo, younger. I think he's better for a heavyweight title run than Czech Congo. But they're stuck with what they're stuck with. So it looks like Czech Congo versus Ryan Bader would be the next logical shot at heavyweight. Krokop versus Roy Nelson. I had some people ask me last night, what happens to Roy Nelson now? There aren't a lot of stakes in these Legends fights. He'll fight another legend. Krokop will fight another legend. They're both basically in the same spot. So Krokop looked strangely, I don't want to say tentative. One of the problems Krokop got away from, that Krokop has, is he got away from his punching in the last few years. It used to be, people forget, he had really nice hands. And a lot of times that set up his head kick. And then in the last few years, even at the end of his prime run, it was like left high kick, left high kick, left high kick. He had that one weapon that everybody worried about, and he kind of over-relied on that to finish fights. His hands used to set up all of his kicks. And what I noticed a lot is a lot of reaching and pawing. He seemed really tentative. Like he rather than throw, he would kind of reach with his hands. So he has to kind of change that around. But, what are the plans in these Legends fights? That's the big thing. Where does Krokop go now? Is he now a contender? Kind of, maybe. He'd have to beat a non-legend, I guess. Or does he stay in this Legends fight where he would fight, the The problem is you can mix and match any of these guys coming off wins and losses. That's the hard part of Legends fights. Ken Shamrock headlined the biggest show in Bellator history coming off on a loss to Kimbo Slice. I said it before, Chael Sonnen coming off his loss to Tito Ortiz, headline Madison Square Garden against Vanderlei. It really doesn't matter. They can all fight each other over and over, and you can lose 3 or 4 times. It really doesn't make any difference. Your name's already secure. You're not fighting for a legacy anymore. So where does each guy go? Who knows? They probably fight another legend. That's what the Legends division is all about in Bellator. They just fight each other. So Cro Cop 1 doesn't mean a whole lot, no, unless you want to make him a contender. He'd have to win a couple more, in my opinion, to get that. Chet Congo beating Vitaly Minakov, not great for Bellator, just I think Minakov would be you get more miles out of him as a heavyweight contender and possible champion. And then Chet Congo, who tends to fight conservatively, is fighting Ryan Bader, who has looked great in Bellator. But you got to remember, one of the knocks on him is he can tend to fight conservatively when he has to. So having 2 guys who can fight conservatively, fight for the heavyweight titles is not a good thing. But who knows? So we'll see how that goes. I would say Chet Congo's next in line. We'll see how Ryan Bader handles it, but that's his first title defense. So that's what I took away from Bellator last night. MVP, we knew he had speed, but I liked his mental fortitude in that fight. And we'll see how he does against stronger wrestlers than Paul Daley, because that's going to be his challenge from here on out. Later, guys, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel and let me know what you think, and I'll be posting more after tonight.